Hey everybody, I am LucidFaith, and today we'll be reviewing Moonlighter. Now you may ask, what is Moonlighter? It is an action RPG with the added requirement of running a business. The combat gives me a old school 2D Legend of Zelda type vibe, while running the business portion of the game gives me a more chill, Animal Crossing, almost Sims vibe to it. Together, they make up a pretty good gaming experience, but let's dive a little bit deeper, shall we? First up, let's dive a little bit deeper into the graphics. Overall, the game has a very pretty 2D pixel art style to it. The graphics are nice, but they're nothing to write home about, right? I was never blown away by what I was seeing, but it did the job well. All the enemy designs are great from a graphics perspective. Each dungeon has their own theme, color palettes, music, and enemy sets, really setting them apart from each other and making them feel like they are in their own world. Next up is the sound design. Now, this is going to include the music and the actual sound effects of the game. Starting on the weaker side of it, the sound effects. They're fine, they're present. I was never wowed by anything, but I think that's okay for sound effects, right? You don't want to be wowed by the steps you take as a character or the way your sword slashes through the air. Sure, if it's something special, amp it up a little bit, but overall it just lent itself to the ambiance of the game and really helped make a more inclusive, immersive world. Then we have the music. Now the music is wonderful. It goes from being very relaxing and gorgeous, such as my favorite shop theme when we're actually in the shop selling things. That theme is on point. But in the dungeons, it really amps it up, especially in the boss fights. It really gets your heartbeat going and sells the fact that you're in a very dangerous situation. So the music is amazing in this game. Next up, we have the story. Now, honestly, I feel like the story is the weakest part of the game. And honestly, I didn't play this game for the story. I don't think anyone really played this game for the story. The story is there to give the reason for what you're doing and why you're doing it, but it's not really compelling. You don't really care about what happens at the end of the game. Sure, there's that little carrot on the stick, but it's not really the driving factor. Now, the overall story is that mysterious dungeons have appeared full of treasure and monsters. Many people have flocked to these dungeons, either in search of riches or glory, but all but one of them were closed after a number of people went missing and blatantly died. You play as Will, a humble man who is trying to run his shop, the Moonlighter. In order to stock your shop, you dive into these dungeons, searching for these artifacts, these treasures, to then turn around and sell in your shop. At the end of the day, you're just an honest guy just trying to make a buck. Now, the story itself, while isn't anything special, I feel like the ending is what really lets it down for me and sours the story in hindsight. Now, when I was playing through the game, I was curious what was really going on. Why are these dungeons here? What are they for? Where did they come from? Because in the game, they tell you about how these dungeons appeared out of nowhere one day. Looking back on it, I see the little things they put in there for players to pick up on. But at the end, once you find out what's going on, I was pretty disappointed. So overall, the build up to the reveal was good. The reveal itself was disappointing for me. So that, for me overall, the story is the weakest point of this game. Now for the meat and potatoes, the gameplay. Now the basic gameplay loop is you delve into a dungeon, you grab the artifacts and the treasure, you bring it back, you sell the treasure at your shop, and we use the money to earn upgrades for your equipment to then dive into more dangerous, deeper dungeons to get more valuable loot. And then you rinse and repeat. Classic action RPG gameplay loop that has been used time and time again since way back in Diablo, Path of Exile, and many, many others. Now to dive more deeply into Moonlighter's gameplay and how they implement the action RPG aspects, the actual combat itself is very responsive. It feels satisfying. The way that you can dive in and out to attack enemies, you have multiple weapons to choose from, each providing their own playstyle, and you're able to equip 2 different weapons, allowing you to mix and match these playstyles. For my first playthrough, I went through with a sword and shield plus a bow to switch to. And honestly, pro tip, get that bow as early as possible. Now that's for the combat. Now for the shop aspect of the game, which is again a very large aspect, is you have to sell your loot to people. So unlike traditional games where you bring back your loot, you go to a shop and you sell it to the shop, instead you are the shop. You bring back your loot, you start with a very humble store with only 4 selling spots. You put out your wares, you wait for people to walk in, you gauge their reactions on if they think it's priced too high, too low, or just right. They end up bringing you what they want to buy, you sell it to them, you get some gold, you move on. All while you have to make sure that you're watching for thieves and keeping your shelves stocked. By the end of the game, the shopping mechanics are pretty much the same as when you started, but more grandiose. You now have a huge shop. You even have an assistant who, in all honesty, doesn't really do much for you. Something she does do, which is nice, is she can run your shop for you, taking a portion of the profits. That way you actually never have to run the shop ever again if you don't enjoy that aspect of the game. Now, in conclusion, if I had to put a number on this game, I would give it a 3.5 out of 5, so a 7 out of 10 overall. The game's pretty good, and I would recommend picking it up on sale. I spent $15 on this game to be able to play it on my Switch on the go, and because of that, I think it is amazing. Now, would I recommend picking it up on PC, on a different console platform? No. I feel like this game really does its best when you have it for on the go. Reason being is it really lends itself to that short pick up and play cycle, right? You have 15 minutes, you pick up, you run through a dungeon, you get some stuff, cool. Later you have another 15 minutes, you open the game back up, you then sell what you just picked up, right? And it's really easy to jump in and out of gameplay. And for me, having it digitally on the Switch was pretty amazing. Thanks for watching. That was my review of Moonlighter. If you enjoyed it, make sure to comment, like, and subscribe. And if you want to chat more about video games or whatever, we do stream every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday starting at 6 o'clock Central over at twitch.tv/LucidFaith. And as always, y'all, I want to remind you that you matter. I'll see y'all next time. Bye for now.